3D Christmas tree that shows some light through it, acrylic nail art tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish. Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to be doing a Christmas tree design where there's little holes in the tree, so if you set a light underneath the nail and it shines through it, it only shines through those little holes and it makes it look like the tree is lighting up. And some of the light does sneak around there, especially if you're using like a flashlight in a dark room. There's going to be some little bit of light pollution, but it's not really, it looks pretty cool. And I know that in the video it looks like it's a little bit bright, just the whole tree all around everything, but that's my camera's way of overcompensating for the dark room. So in real life it does look really cool, and I did play around with a couple different ideas of how to make the tree light up. Glow-in-the-dark powder, actually using little lights. Like you can get the ones that are made for a nail that then syncs up with your phone, you can get those, or you can, there's other options. I tried to use like a filament and do something fiber optics wise, and all in all, I decided that I didn't want anything too crazy like that. I wanted to keep this simple and not use any other methods really. So this is what I came up with. I hope you like it, and don't forget to click subscribe to see my future videos as well. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to sculpt with clear only underneath the area where I'm going to put the tree. So like I said, clear acrylic, and for the most part I'm just going to make a point at the top of the tree like you would normally see, and then fill in the tip with the clear. And you don't want to put the point of the tree so far up on the nail where the light's not going to hit it because of your nail bed. So you want to put that beyond your natural nail bed or your natural nail if you've got longer nails, so that there's a more opportunity for the light to hit all the way up the tree, if all of that makes sense. So after I've got all of that filled in with the clear, I took a bead of clear acrylic again, but this time I dunked that into some really pretty red glitter, and I'm just going to fill in above the tree. And so there's lots of red glitter happening here, and when you're doing that, because it's not a pre-mixed method, it's not like you have a jar of glitter mix that's already ready for you, or it's not red glitter, the line isn't super perfect and the glitter coverage isn't the same all the way through. That's fine with me. I'm just letting you know why that is, why there's a couple places where there's seems to be a little bit less glitter than others, just because of that. So then I'm going to take, and with clear acrylic, I'm going to encase the nail. I know for the tip it's already clear acrylic, so what's the point? So most of it is being focused above on the red glitter, and especially over the line between the glitter and the clear soon-to-be tree area. And you really want to make sure that you do cover up the glitter, because then as you're filing it, like I'm doing now, you want to make sure that none of that glitter is going to get hit, because it's going to turn silver instead of saying red, and you really want it to stay red. And I'm using my e-file for this mainly because this is such a long nail, and I just wanted to speed up the process and make that a little easier. Otherwise, I would use a 180 grit file to start with, and then a 240 grit padded buffer. So now in the area that is above the tree, along the cuticle, within the red, I'm going to be writing Merry Christmas with white paint. You could skip this, or you could do different things up there. It just, since you can't have the tree go all the way up to the cuticle for the light to hit it, you've got a little bit of a gap happening up there, which you could leave plain. There's no law against that. Or like you could paint a little Santa and sleigh silhouette, that'd be cute. Or you can just write Merry Christmas like I did. So I put Merry at the top and then Christmas beneath that. Surprise, surprise, writing Merry Christmas. It's going to include the words Merry and Christmas. Man, I'm just full of surprises. Isn't that shocking? Yeah. So when you're writing Merry, start with the first R, that's the center letter, and then for Christmas, the I and the S share middle, so make sure you keep that way so that you have the space, and then cover that with a layer of gel sealer and cure it. So now on a nail form backing, I'm going to have my tree nail just next to me so that I know what size to make these, but I'm going to start making out the boughs of green. So I put a bead of green onto my nail form backing, and then I'm going to take and I'm going to add little lines on the sides to make it look a little bit more like pine needles fanning out, and then poke a whole bunch of holes in the middle of it. The holes are important. That's what makes it so that you can see the light through it. So then after it's close to set, and you can then pick it up and set it on the nail. If it doesn't stick very well the first time, if you're trying to set it down, it just isn't going to stay there. You can go and that one broke, so I just scrapped that one and made a new one. I went and I just put a little bit of the green acrylic on the nail to really help adhere it so that it's not just going to fall off in a second. I did add more green acrylic later on and some clear acrylic, so as long as they're staying at this moment, you should be pretty good. But if you do want to add some green just as a precaution, that does definitely work. So I'm just going to continue making these, and while I'm making them and while they're all being sculpted, I'm going to say why I use nail forms, what nail forms are, and what are some alternatives, because that is probably my most asked question. And so I figured there's so much of making fronds that, or they're not really fronds, that'd be palm trees, whatever they are, the boughs of green, that I figured this would be a good time to just mention all of my nail form information. So if you were to sculpt a nail and not use a plastic tip like the one that I'm using, if you were to sculpt it just against the nail, you would use a nail form. And a nail form is this thick sticker that you stick underneath the nail and it sort of tapes on, that you can use to then make the nail extension without the tip, with just clear gel, or doesn't have to be clear, with just acrylic or just gel. And if you want to know more about nail forms, I can put a link in the description box below with a video that shows me a while ago, so mention it's not really that good, but it does show me using a nail form in a nail extension process. Otherwise though, if you don't want to use a nail form backing, so because a nail form is a sticker, the thing that it comes on is this really slippery sticker paper. And so that's what I use. You can use the nail form. You can make all of these boughs of green on the nail form itself. You can make them on any sticker backing. So if you have Minion stickers that came in your kids' Christmas gift, you can use the backing off those after they've used up all the stickers. That works too. Or there's some other things that you can try, and I am thinking of making a video that shows other options and how they work with the acrylic, so that's kind of on the back burner for the moment, but I am planning on making that video. So if you want to see how comparisons of how the acrylic reacts on a plastic baggie or various things. So speaking of plastic baggies, that is something that you can use. They are a little more slippery and they kind of wrinkle some, so you have to make sure that they're really stuck into place before you start using those, but that could work. Otherwise, wax paper. And wax paper is something that so many people have asked me if you can use instead of a nail form backing, and I really wasn't sure, and I hadn't gotten any responses back from people asking, and so I decided I would give it a try the other day when I was actually making the Christmas tree lights for my Minion sculpture, the bigger sculpture that's on my art channel. And so I was making the lights out of acrylic, so I thought, hey, I've got the wax paper under me already so I don't make a total mess on my table. Let's see how it works. So I put a bead down onto the wax paper of clear acrylic, and I let it set there, and I was just seeing how it works. So here's what I've discovered with using the wax paper. Wax paper does work if you don't need to pick it up before it's set. So there are certain circumstances where you pick up the bead before it's 100% set, and it's flexible, but it's still going to hold its shape. And doing that, it doesn't like to come off, and it ends up kind of squashing the shape. But if you're trying to take it off and it's already set and it's completely hard, and there are circumstances where you want it that way as well, it does come off, and it comes off relatively easily. Not quite as easy as off the nail form, whereas it pretty much just flies right off as soon as it's set. It's like, bye! It doesn't come off quite that easy, but it does. So if you want to use wax paper as an alternative, in certain circumstances it does work. And I will, like I said, I shouldn't say if, because I do plan on making it when I make that video showing different acrylic sculpting options for making things off the nail like this, then I will definitely show you what I mean by what I'm saying, that it doesn't come off quite as easy, so it sort of it adheres to the wax paper a little more. The other thing with the wax paper that I'm a little concerned about is that if you scratch wax paper, you get that little line where the wax gets scratched. If you scratch it, it gets scratched. But it gets a little ridge in it, and the wax kind of kicks up from the paper a bit, and I would be afraid that that could really mess up the acrylic, and that the acrylic would stick into all of those little grooves even if you can't see them. It's not quite as smooth as these other papers are. So I'll do some experimenting. I'll make a video. I'll show you. Hopefully you'll find something that works out. If you don't use nail forms, then obviously you're not going to have nail form backings. And I don't use them very often, usually only when I break a nail really bad and I'm like, okay, this thing needs to get extended, since I don't work in a salon. I don't have clients at the moment, at least. And so I don't use them very often. So whenever I do use a nail form and I have one of these backings, I'm like, I'm saving this thing. It is gold in my house. So I have a box actually of nail form backings because they don't last forever. They get kind of residuey. I don't know if you can see on there, there's all that green residue on there. So yeah. So now I'm at the top of the tree. Woohoo! And the top of the tree, I made into a triangle instead of into that more of a teardrop shape. So I'm just going to make that and fill in the rest of the tree space with that topper. And then I'm going to take some more of that green acrylic that I have and just fill in all of the gaps around so that everything is nice and stuck on and it's going to be good. So then with a really glittery gold acrylic, I'm going to make the star on top of my tree. So I'm going to first pull out the top point, and then I'm going to split the remaining areas on each side into 2 pieces. So that creates 5 points total. And then I put a little gold rhinestone into the center. However, after I did that and I was looking at it, I decided there really was no point whatsoever in doing that because it just disappears. But that is what I did. So then using the same rhinestones but different colors. Obviously, I've got some clear ones, blue, red. I kind of shied away from green just because the tree's green. You're not really going to see it. I just put all kinds of little really pretty rhinestones that I have. And these rhinestones are the ones that have the little point on the bottom, which do not work whatsoever if you're doing natural nails and you want them to stand straight up. But for this, the little point is really helpful because, one, it makes the rhinestone so much deeper and so much prettier, but it also really, if you have them in a clear bead or in any acrylic and they set in there and they really sit well, they're gonna stay so much better than if they were flat. Then you can just sort of pick them off, whereas these ones are really stuck in there and you're not gonna get rid of them. So I just put them all over the tree, sticking them in different locations, switching up the color here and there. And then I took a bead of clear acrylic and I dipped that into some gold caviar beads, and I'm just going to string those along. My original thought was to string them in a nice little row so that it looked like they were strung across the tree. I quickly decided that that was not the route to go. One, going over all the fronds, they're not smooth. That would be very difficult. Plus, you got the little ornament rhinestones in the way, so I decided just putting a little bits of them here and there would be a better choice. And I like the way it looked in the end, so I'm all good with changing it up. A lot of times when I do a design like this, I change my mind about things about 50 times going through it. Whether it's a color that I want to do, the exact shape of something. Normally, unless I'm doing like a character where obviously I'm not going to suddenly change the shape of Garfield's tail, then I do switch things up here and there just to keep it interesting. So that is how you make the tree, and that is also, if you can see how I put the light behind there, it was really weird to take photos of it just because I was using my phone light and that's so bright. So, and especially in a dark room to really show it, then it's too dark. It's a whole thing. So I hope you like this, and don't forget to share recreations with me on Facebook and Instagram. I'd love to see them, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!